My name is Luciana Rodrigues, but everyone calls me Lou, so feel free. I wish I could just leave this slide up here for the whole presentation. This is my dad. He died of liver cancer a year ago, last April. And it's safe to say that losing my father was quite the experience. For me, for my family, none of us were prepared for what was to come, especially in terms of grief. And when I lost my dad, out of all of my friends, I actually was the only one, except for one other friend that I had, who had lost a parent. So it's safe to say that I actually felt pretty alone in this experience. But I had one friend who, although she hadn't lost a parent, she hadn't gone through the unfortunate experience of losing a mom or losing a dad, she, instead of coming to me and saying the cliche, he's in a better place now, or he's no longer suffering, she went to her friends who had lost their parents and their loved ones, and she asked them, what do I say to Lou? And then she made me a book. And in that book, she beautifully hand-lettered all of the advice and wise words that her friends had told her to pass along to me. Danielle, thank you for this. I carry this notebook around with me everywhere I go. When I miss my dad, I write him notes. This past Father's Day was my first Father's Day without a father, so I wrote him a Father's Day card. But even though I felt alone in this experience, I'm not. 47% of college-age students have experienced a significant loss within the past 24 months. That means that almost half of 18 to 30-year-olds have experienced a significant loss within the past 2 years. And not only is this a significant number, studies further suggest that in the semester in which a loss occurs, one's GPA will significantly drop. Young adults are just naturally social beings. I know this from being a young adult, but also from working with young adults who have lost a loved one for this whole year. We want to relate to those around us. We want to be able to talk to our friends about our experiences, about the things that we're going through, about the sadness that we feel. So when you are the only one in your friend group who's lost a parent, it becomes incredibly difficult to relate to those around you. This is a picture of my friend Elia and her father. Elia is the one friend that I alluded to who was the only one I knew who had lost a parent. She lost her father to lung cancer. She said that she would want to talk about her dad. She loved talking about her dad. She loved talking about the happy memories that she had with her father. But she would find herself not talking about him to make other people around her more comfortable. On the surface, it seems like there are a lot of resources that exist for a young person to be able to tap into when it comes to accessing, support services for their grief. But as I dug more into it, I saw that it was actually difficult for a young person who's already experiencing so many life transitions, and then on top of that, grieving the loss of a parent, to be able to actually access some of these. I did see significant opportunity in the informal support group space. And when I say informal, I mean peer-led, peer-to-peer, social, with a very low barrier to entry. But I kept thinking about these informal spaces, and what about right after the loss? And when I say right after the loss, I mean a couple weeks to about 9 to 10 months after the loss. It still is incredibly difficult for a young person to be able to tap into even these informal support services. So I wanted to make sure that what I created was going to be able to address this very delicate time period in a young person's grieving process. Something else that I kept hearing and that I love to hear was that young people are naturally altruistic beings. We like to help other people. When I was talking to young people and I would ask them, how do you feel most useful? Themes of volunteering and being a shoulder and being a support to your friends, they just kept coming up. It was beautiful, actually. 9 out of 10 young people that I spoke to said that they would never hesitate to be there for a friend who had experienced the loss of a loved one, especially a parent, no matter how hard it was for them to tap back into that pretty sad, terrible memory of their own. This made it important that the intervention that I built was something that was going to be addressing this question right here. How might we use our grief to help others? Because themes of helping others and themes of addressing our grief kept coming up. So it had to be low stakes. It had to be social, because we're social beings. It had to be practical. And most importantly, it had to be helpful. So I created Friends with Death. Friends with Death is a DIY bookmaking movement geared at young people to be able to take their pain and turn it into purpose and be able to give their grief a sense of usefulness. It's really simple, and I wanted to keep it simple. You take an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, you fold it up, give it a cut, and you fill the pages with whatever you feel fit to fill the pages with. I have a lot of examples of books that have been made in some of the bookmaking pilot workshops that I hosted. I saw a really wide spectrum of things that people would add into these books, from very practical advice, such as get an estate lawyer, to poems and song lyrics and, something that kept coming up was people are going to say really shitty things to you. Here's how you deal with it. You can walk away. A lot of flowers, too. So how the bookmaking pilots worked is that I hosted 3 of them, and I invited young adults who had lost parents or loved ones. I met these young adults in a meetup group here in Manhattan that's specifically geared at young people who've lost a parent, and also in my dinner party. Dinner Party is an organization that exists all over the world for 20 and 30-something-year-olds who have lost somebody to get together, share a meal, and be able to bond over the similar experience. Through these 2 groups, I was able to form connections, and I was able to meet some amazing people that had a lot of amazing things to say and contribute to this. This right here is Tepper. Tepper came to all 3 of my bookmaking pilot workshops. And when I asked him, or actually another participant said, "Why do you keep coming back?" He said that he kept coming back to these things because it sort of forces him to deal with these messy, complicated feelings of grief in a way that doesn't feel like a waste, but more real. I think that this is a testament to how putting your pain into purpose and taking your grief, giving it words, and putting it down into paper can give it a sense of use. Something that I heard from one participant of the meetup group, and it stuck with me, was that she said, "I know that this grief that I feel for losing my mom is going to sit in me forever. I know that, and I'm okay with that, and we should be okay with that. Grief is going to always be a part of us." But what she wasn't okay with was how it felt like a weight, a dead weight, to use her words. And she wishes that she could take that weight and do something with it, use it. So that's why I wanted to create something that made this grief feel useful. More real, as Tupper said. This is actually, I think, Tupper's book. He created so many, and they're all so beautiful. And what these books really are just a vehicle for young adults to begin addressing this grief and this pain. It's not the final step, but it's more so an opportunity to take it and put what they're feeling into words. It's what one participant described as a physical, tangible, "I'm here for you." What I want this to become is a part of the culture for young people who have lost somebody. I don't want it to just stay at books or to just be a bookmaking movement, but I want it to be a movement forward. And what'll help facilitate this movement forward is actually this website that I've created, friendswithdeath.com. This website will create an opportunity for young people to go on and download instructions on how to create their own grief books. Further, they can then take these instructions, make their own books on their own time when they're ready to, and then they can upload it onto the website. Because something else that I had heard from these young people was that they really wish that they had an opportunity to be able to share their book with somebody else, but luckily they didn't know somebody immediately who had lost a loved one. But they still wanted to be able to share their books. So they can upload their books onto this website, and then these books will sit on this website, and other young people from all over the world will be able to then log onto the website and also take a look at books that other young people have created. This is really important because you may not be ready to create a book, and that's okay, but you do still feel alone, and hopefully this addresses that feeling of feeling a little bit alone. I think that our culture, our society, we are not taught how to talk about grief. We're not taught how to talk about loss, and we're not taught how to talk about death. And I hate to stand up here and remind you that death is the only thing that's guaranteed to each and every one of us. But it is. It's the reality of the situation. And if we are able to talk about it a little bit more, and if we're able to become a little bit friendlier with death, I think we're taking the right step forward. Thank you. I also have a lot of thank yous, but the main thank you goes to my dad because I know that he's here right now and I know he's so proud of me. I also really want to thank my mom and my sister because if it weren't for these incredible women, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. I also want to thank Mia and Cheryl, two other incredibly strong women who have guided me and given me so much advice, not only with my thesis, but life advice. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be standing right here if it weren't for you two women. And I also really want to thank this amazing cohort. You guys, you're not just a cohort, you're not just classmates, you're family. And I'm never going to forget you guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you.